A lot of people think the Aristotelian philosophy is complex, and that is right. Aristotelian philosophy is complex unless you have a knowledge about it. To fully appreciate that video, it's crucial to familiarize yourself before with the incategoric theory of peripatetic philosophy due to the unfairness of the factual nature of Socratic non-dogmatic dialogues. It's a joke. You don't need to be expert to understand this video. No matter your education background, the only thing you need is hunger for knowledge and willingness to attain higher level of happiness. Because if we had to explain in a single sentence what ethics is for Aristotle, we will have to say that it's the science of the good life. The philosophical discipline that investigates what human being must do to live well in complete way. Aristotle realized that people perform multiple actions with a view of something else, usually some good that we want to achieve. We work to earn money, we earn money to go on vacation, we want vacation to rest, we rest to work again. But in this chain of means and ends, not everything, according to Aristotle, can be done or sought as a means to something else. There must be a final end, or supreme good, something that we seek for its own sake and not as means to some further end. And what is this final end? What which we seek in everything we do? Well, everyone agrees, says Aristotle, that is the happiness, eudaimonia, which we will better translated as the good life or flourishing. This gives Aristotle the key to ethics, the criteria for distinguish good from bad. If the ultimate end of our action is happiness, if what we seek in everything we do is eudaimonia, the good will be that truly help me to achieve that goal. While the bad will be that hinders it, make it difficult or contradict it. But now we have a problem because the agreement about happiness ends with the name, regarding its content. What is this? What is consist of? Here everyone thinks what they want. Part of the goal of ethics, therefore, is to investigate the different concepts of the happy life and define which of them is correct, which of them truly represent the true good of human life. There are people who live a voluptuous life, blessing sensible pleasures at the center of their existence. But this is life of beast, of animal, he says, so it is hardly going to be the best life a human being can live. Others, a little more sophisticated, place happiness in honors. The problem with this is that honor are not so much in me as the people who give them to me. So honors are not something personal, not a good that I have in my own possession. And they are very easy to lose. One day everyone is cheering you, and the next day everyone tries to silence you. So true eudaimonia cannot lie in this ether. Finally, there are many who place happiness in wealth, but this, says Aristotle, is foolish because money is clearly a means to achieve other things, and therefore we cannot consider it as an end in itself. Aristotle then begins to think, how do we solve this? How do we determine exactly the content of the human good? And what he realizes is that the good for all things consists in the fulfillment, in the excellence of that which is proper to it, its function or work, its ergon. A good knife is one that serves excellently to do what knives are supposed to do, good. A good watch is one that tells the time well, and good eye is one that performs its function, the function of seeing excellently. Then a good man will be one who fulfills his own function, his own ergon, as a human being in an excellent way. A good man's life will be one in which the individual fulfills his ergon, this function that gives us the particularity of being human, in the fullest possibility way. But what is man's ergon? What is his function, his work, that which he and only he knows and can do? That which distinguishes him, set him apart from the other behinds? It cannot be vegetable life, the function of growth and nourishment, because we share this with the plants, right? And it will be a bit sad if human happiness consisted in exactly the same thing at the happiness of my hibiscus, nor can it be the sensitive life, insensible pleasures, because we share this with the rest of the animals. What remains, then, is reason, and it's there, says Aristotle, that we must seek the supreme good, man's happiness, in the perfect fulfillment of this activity in an excellent life according to the reason, which naturally lends him to a discussion of virtue, arete, which could be better translated as excellent, and of the different type of virtues or excellent that are part of full human life. Here is important to remember that, for Aristotle, the human soul has two parts, so to speak. A rational part, the vegetable or nutritive part, and one rational part, the intelligent, reason, speculative, and calculative. Each of these parts has its own function and therefore will also have its own virtue, its own excellence in carrying out this function. Since we, as a human being, do not have rational control over the vegetable function of our body, which have to do with nourishment and growth, Aristotle says that the excellence of this function does not fall within properly human virtue. I mean, we need to eat, and this is what it is. We haven't another option, and we can't control how many we will grow. But it's different with the appetite part of the soul, says Aristotle, because although it is in itself irrational and we share it with the rest of the animal, in us it is susceptible to the reason control, and that is why he says it participates to some extent in reason. Our affective life, our emotion life, when we get angry, when we are happy, when we are sad, and so on, all of this is more or less susceptible to some control by the reason because it is permeable to the reason. I can feel myself getting angry, getting upset, and yet convince myself to cool down a bit. And that shows that this appetite, sensitive part of the soul is susceptible to the reason, is permeable by reason. The virtues that have to do with the control or mastery of our appetite or sensitive tendencies, such as appetite of food, drink, and sex, will indeed be properly human and will be called ethical virtues. And thus, there is also purely rational part in us, reason, our intellect. This part will also have its own virtues, and Aristotle calls them the anoetics virtues. Let's talk about ethical virtues. These, Aristotle tells us, can be acquired through custom habit. Aristotle realized that by repeatedly acting in the same way, we develop a habit, that is, stable disposition to continue acting in the same way, more easily and excellently each time. It may be very difficult for us to write when we are children, and it is the first time we do it, but through practice and repetition it becomes easier and more natural for us each time. And now that we are out, we do it even thinking. The same happens when we use it to the social norms of the society. We become good for society if we follow the teaching that a culture gives us. The same happens, says Aristotle, with the virtues. By repeatedly performing acting of justice, we become just. We acquire that habit, the habit of justice. This habit then influences and enhances our future action, making it easier and more immediate for us to recognize what is just and to act justly. By repeatedly performing acts of robbery, we acquire the habit, the virtue of robbery, and this habit then makes it easier, more immediate, and natural for us to act properly in the future. And so with the rest of the ethical virtues, they are acquired through constant practice, just as in the arts or techniques. But what exactly is virtue? What is the common nature of all ethical virtues? It is, says Aristotle, the mean between two extremes, two vices, excess and deficiency. In fact, courage is the virtue that helps us to do what is noble in the face of danger. As such, it is mean between cowardice, its deficiency, and recklessness, its excess. Just as it is wrong to be cowardly, it is also wrong to be reckless, to be imprudent in face of danger. What is right lies in the mean. Courage is always with the prudence, which cool ahead. Let's continue with the virtues. Temperance, which is the virtue that has to do with the control of pleasures and sensitive tendencies, is in turn the mean between the deficiency of insensibility and the excess of liberality behavior. With the mastery of pleasures and sensitive tendencies, it is in turn the mean between the defect of insensibility in the excess of debauchery. Liberality, the just and virtuous behavior regarded in money, is the mean between avarice, giving absolutely nothing, and prodigality, giving too much without considering others' responsibilities. The most important of Aristotle's ethical virtues is justice, which is about giving each their due with the distribution of goods and benefits. And now this is very interesting between virtues and vice, especially with regard to material and sensitive pleasures. Aristotle says that there are two intermediate moral states in the mean between virtue and vice, which are continence and incontinence, akrasias. Virtue is the moral state in which reason and appetite are in harmony, aiming toward the good, while in vice, reason and appetite are also in harmony, but aim toward the bad. The vicious person does evil naturally, without any remorse or regret. Aristotle says because in them, the best part, the principle of reason has been corrupted. When reason is led astray by disordered passion and appetite, it can no longer recognize that evil is bad and instead believe it is good. Virtue, on the other hand, is the moral state in which reason, remaining poor in its vision of the good, has somehow recognized passion with itself through the practice of virtue, so that passion now directs the person toward the good. Passion no longer drags me toward the bad. I no longer have a disordered passion, but now I do good naturally and effortlessly. Of course, says Aristotle, most of us are neither in moral state of perfection virtue, nor in a state of complete vice, but somewhere in between. In that intermediate state between virtue and vice, we find ourselves in an internal battle, or struggle between reason and appetite. Reason tells us what is right, good and beneficial for us, while appetite, on the other hand, lead drag or attempt to pull us toward what is bad, what is not beneficial. An example about that, I guess everyone will be very familiar with it. We know that eating the seafood kebab won't sit well after you have already had two, but your body craves it. And here two things can happen. The person in that internal struggle between reason and appetite may follow their reason and do the good despite their disordered appetites, and then we say that this person is content. Or the person that same internal struggle may ignore their reason and be led by their disordered appetite toward the bad, and they will say they are incontinent. They know that what they are doing is not right, yet they do it because they are led by their passion. This phenomenon of the incontinent, by the way, refutes Socratic moral intellectualism, the idea that a person who knows what is right will directly do this. Aristotle realized that this does not align with the human experience, and there are many people who intellectually know what is right but still do not do it. Instead, they do what is wrong because they are led by their passion. It's much better to be continent than vicious because, says Aristotle, the incontinent person at least is open to reform, says the best part. The principle, reason, remains pure within them, and continue to tell them that what they have to do is wrong. This opens up the possibility of remorse and in some way returning to the right path. In the vicious person, none of this occurs because reason has been completely corrupted. It has let itself be won over. The vicious person rationalizes their own able to convince themselves that is right. The continent person does not do it. The incontinent person knows that what are they doing is wrong. And that is why it is better to be incontinent than vicious, because behind incontinent you can more easily get out of the state. The ideal is that, through well-ordered custom, good habit, repetition of good action, and repetition of virtues against the disordered passion, we gradually move from the state of incontinence to continence, and from continence finally to virtue. In virtue I reach that inner state where I no longer have to force myself to do good, but good comes natural to me, without any inner struggle, without opposition from my passion. Why? Because I have managed to align my passion with reason tells me right. Thus, not I state neither in the vicious nor in the virtuous person is there a struggle between reason and appetite, but rather unity. But of course, the difference is unity in what? In the virtuous person, the unity is the good, in the right, in order. In the vicious person, on the other hand, the unity is the bad, toward the bad, toward disorder. What we have to do is unite reason with the disorder of the passion. Because of all this, Aristotle says something very interesting. Notice he says that from the point of the view of its entity and the definition that the state is a sense. Virtue is a mean, but from the point of the view is the best and the good. It is an extreme. What does this mean? Is virtue the mean but also an extreme? How should this be understood? Let's see what happened. It means that we can consider virtue from two different planes between two extremes, right? Between excess and defect. But from another point of view, virtue itself is an extreme. Why? Because if we use the scale of good, virtue itself is the highest on the scale of good. It is perfection. And the other extreme we have a vice, which is like a complete corruption. That is why when we are considering the scale of good, it makes no sense to say the correct thing is to aim for the mean. Because in the mean, what you have are the state of incontinence and continence, which are imperfect moral state. When we consider the scale of good, what we most aim for is not the mean, but the extreme of good, of the best, of virtue. It's like looking at the mountain from two different perspectives. Viewed from above, the summit is like a mean between the two lower extremes. But viewed from below, from the ground, the summit is the highest point, and it is extreme compared to the lower point, which are other extremes. Well, that regarding ethical virtues very well. And what about the eudaimonia, theoretic, dianoetic virtues? There are the perfection, the excellences that correspond to the rational part of the soul. Science, reason has two dimensions, a purely theoretical dimension dedicated to the contemplation of necessary, immutable and eternal truths, of philosophy, metaphysics and theology, and on the other hand, practical dimension oriented toward action, the two most important dianoetic virtues will be those that perfect the exercise of these two dimensions of reason. The virtue proper to theoretical reason is Sophia, the wisdom, by which we achieve a knowledge of higher truth. On the other hand, the virtue proper to practical reason will be prudence, phronesis, which consists of adequately direct life, in hitting the mark regarding what is good and bad for man as man. That is why Aristotle said,
"Nothing at all! Nothing at all!"
It's a joke. That is why Aristotle says that the prudent man sees the truth in all things, because his virtue, the virtue of prudence, helps him to see adequately what the true ends are that must be pursued in the life of man. Now, the most perfect happiness Aristotle suggests is found in the constitution of wisdom of Sophia, because in it the human being actualizes the highest part of themselves, the intelligent, and achieves the knowledge, the appreciation of the highest truth, or the truth of Aristotle, and the contemplation of the eternal and divine. The best life, in absolute sense, says Aristotle, is the contemplative life, and it should be pursued as much as possible, even if it greatly exceeds human nature and is more proper to gods than the mortals. That is why in second place in the ranking of happiness is a life lived according to ethical virtues alone, the practical life, which still provides us with properly human happiness, although from an absolute point of view, in comparative terms. It is of a second order compared to the happiness that can be achieved in the contemplative life that also has ethical virtues. Aristotle is not thinking of a contemplative life apart of ethical virtues. So the key to a full and happy life is finding a balance between contemplation and action, cultivating both wisdom and prudence. By doing so, we can reach our maximum potential and live a life that is truly worthy of being called human. And that is all. Thanks you for